Good morning. This is PJ, Pastor Jeff. It is our daily lectionary readings. Today's readings is for Monday, May 3rd, 2021. Our three readings include our Psalm reading, which is Psalms 80, our Old Testament reading, which is Isaiah chapter 5, verses 1 through 7, and then our New Testament reading, which is Galatians chapter 5, verses 16 through 26. And hear the words of the day. Listen, shepherd, Israel shepherd, get all your Joseph sheep together. Throw beams of light from dazzling thrones so Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh can see where they are going. Get out of your bed. You slept long enough. Come on the run before it's too late. God, come back. Smile your blessing smile. That will be our salvation. God of the angel armies, how long will you smolder like a sleeping volcano, while your people call for fire and brimstone? You put us on a diet of tears, bucket after bucket of salty tears to drink. You make us look ridiculous to our friends, and our enemies poke fun all day long and day after day. God of the angel armies, come back. Smile your blessing smile. That will be our salvation. Remember how you brought a young vine from Egypt, cleared out the brambles and the briars, and planted your very own vineyard. You prepared the good earth. You planted her deep roots. The vineyards filled the land. Your vine soared high and shaded the mountains, even dwarfing the giant cedars. Your vine raged west to the sea, east to the river. So why do you no longer protect your vine? Trespassers pick its grapes at will. Wild pigs crash through it and crush it, and the mice nibble away at what's left. God of the angel armies, turn our way. Take a good look at what's happened and attend to this vine. Care for what was once tenderly planted, the vine you raised from a shoot, and those who dared to set it to fire, give them a look that will kill. Then take the hand of your once favorite child, the child you raised into adulthood. We will never turn our back on you. Breathe life into our lungs so we can shout your name. God of the angel armies, come back. Smile your blessing smile. That will be our salvation. Our Old Testament reading today comes from the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verses 1 through 7. Hear these words. I'll sing a ballad to the one I love, a love ballad about his vineyard. The one I love had a vineyard, a fine, well-placed vineyard. He hoed the soil and pulled the weeds and planted the very best vines. He built a lookout, built a wine press, a vineyard to be proud of. He looked for a vintage yield of grapes, but for all his pains, he got garbage grapes. Now listen to what I'm telling you. You who live in Jerusalem and Judah, what do you think is going on between me and my vineyard? Can you think of anything I could have done to my vineyard that I didn't do? When I expect good grapes, why did I get bitter grapes? Well, now, let me tell you what I'll do to my vineyard. I'll tear down its fence and let it go to ruin. I'll knock down the gate and I'll let it get trampled. I'll turn it into a patch of weeds, unintended, uncared for. Thistles and thorns will take over. I'll give orders to the cloud. Don't rain on the vineyard, ever. Do you get it? The vineyard of the God of angel armies is the country of Israel. All the men and women of Judah in the garden he was so proud of. He looked for a crop of justice and saw them murdering each other. He looked for a harvest of righteousness and heard only the moans of victims. Our New Testament reading today comes from the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verses 16 through 26. Hear these words. My counsel is this: live freely, animated, and motivated by God's Spirit. Then you won't feed the compulsion of selfishness. For there is a root of sinful self-interest in us that is at odds with the free spirit. Just as the free spirit is incompatible with selfishness, these two ways of life are contrary to each other, so that you cannot live at the times one way and at times another way, according to how you feel on any given day. Why don't you choose to be led by the Spirit and so escape the erratic compulsions of a law-dominated existence? It is obvious what kind of life develops out of trying to get your own way all the time. Repetitive, loveless, cheap sex, a stinking accumulation of mental and emotional garbage, frenzied and joyless grabs for happiness, trinket gods, magic show religion, paranoid loneliness, cutthroat competition, all-consuming, yet never satisfied once, a brutal temper, an impotence to love or be loved, divided homes and divided lives, small-minded and lopsided pursuits, the vicious habits of depersonalizing everyone into a rival, uncontrolled and uncontrollable addictions, ugly parodies of community. I could go on. This isn't the first time I've warned you, If you use your freedom this way, you will not inherit God's kingdom. But what happens when we live God's way? He brings gifts into our lives, much of the same way that fruit appears in an orchard. Things like affection for others, exuberant about life, serenity. We develop a willingness to stick with things, a sense of compassion in the heart, a conviction that of basic holiness permeates things and people. We find ourselves involved in loyal commitments, not needing to force our way in life, able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. Legalism is helpless in bringing this about. It only gets in the way. Among those who belong to Christ, everything connected with getting our own way and mindless responding to what everyone else calls necessity is killed off for good, crucified. Since this is the kind of life that we have chosen, the life of the Spirit, let us make sure that we do not just hold on to it as an idea in our hands or a sentiment in our hearts, but work out the implications in every detail of our lives. That means we will not compare ourselves with each other as if one was better than the other or worse. We have far more interesting things to do with our lives. Each of us is an original. And here ends our readings for the day.